out just around the time of Darwin. So it's poisonous plant, but there still are pollinators, and there are bees and flies that come in and pollinate this plant. Obviously, that's what it's for, is spreading its pollen. Now, a lot of us confuse, when the flowers aren't there, confuse the star lily with something called the soap plant. And here we can see the soap plant leaves and the star lily. And they look a bit the same, but soap plant tends to be a little bit curlier and curvier. And it's also matte. This is shiny because it's all wet, but it's a more matte color, whereas the star lily is brighter. So that's one way you can tell. Of course, if you wait and see the flowers, it's no problem at all. So now let's talk about naming flowers. If you really care about naming, oh, I've already gone over this, except I've got one more strategy, which I take from my Hidden Villa. I was a Hidden Villa docent for many years. And the strategy is give up on, learn the name if you want, and it's interesting to have it. But especially with kids, don't force everybody to learn the names. That's not the point. The point of a flower is the flower itself, what it is, how it works, how it looks, how it smells. So don't really obsess with the names. And especially with kids, or with anybody really, you might try taking a kid and saying, okay, you get to name one flower today. You can name it with your own name. It'll be like Dan's Purple Thurple or Helen's Flame or whatever you call it. And that's your plant for the day. And you can find out where it lives, what it looks like, how many do you see, where do you see it? You see it in the shade, in the sun, in the woods, in the chaparral. And so they get to know that one plant. It's much better than trying to learn a dozen different names named after some dead Scotsman or whatever. So that's a Hidden Villa strategy. And I also strongly suggest everybody goes to Hidden Villa when they open it up again. Okay, next flower. This flower is not on the ground. This flower is way up high in the tree. It's called a madrone. And here we have one from Coal Mine Ridge. Looking up, you can see flower, 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 flower. So we get flowers of all sizes, and of course the bees and the flies go up there. They pollinate it up there. If you look down on the trail, you might see little tiny pieces of these flowers. There's another example of the beautiful madrone in flower. So it's got lovely leaves too. The flowers come out like that. It makes a nice little bouquet. And here are the flowers as they come out. And then here's the more mature flowers. And you're walking on the trail, you'll sometimes see these little guys sort of littering. The whole trail is covered with these things. So when you see that, look up, because somewhere up high above you, there's a madrone. These trees are declining throughout their range. And nobody knows exactly why, but they think it might be because they are also fire followers. Fire sort of clears the way for them. It clears away a lot of their competition, a lot of the other plants that are crowding them, and they grow up very fast after fire. So, the fact that we haven't had any major fires here since the Native Americans, actually, we haven't had the Ohlone and other Native Americans used to set fires on a regular basis every 5-10 years. And that sort of kept the place in a different, it kept the ecology very different than it is now, because we've sort of suppressed them obviously ever since. And we're reaping that whirlwind in the fires of the last couple of years, and I'm afraid the next year as well. So the name of madrone, to me, sounds like Spanish for mother, madre. So you've heard of padrone. I think this is madrone. This is the great mother somehow. The name Menzies, which is the Latin name, was a Scottish naturalist, duh, and so he came out with Vancouver, who discovered Vancouver Island and all that, and sent a sample back to England. At Hidden Villa, this is pictures from Hidden Villa, and instead of calling it the madrone or this or that, we call it the refrigerator tree. If you put your hand on the bare part of the madrone, you can feel why we name it that. So here's one on Jasper on Coal Mine Ridge, and these trees, even though they're declining in their range, they are somewhat less susceptible to sudden oak death. So maybe they'll come back a little bit. As we say, here's the bark. Native Americans brewed a tea from the bark and used it to cure all sorts of things like stomach cramps, stomach aches, skin ailments. And the bark comes off. Maybe this is to get rid of parasites or other things. Anyway, for some reason, you can see the bark all comes off. There are lovely leaves too. So all parts of this tree are beautiful. The berries were eaten by the natives, ate the berries, as well as many, many animals and birds. Every year, the cedar waxwing come through and just chow down on these berries. And I've seen clouds of robins, 1,000 robins at a time at Jasper Ridge, migrating through, looking for the berries. We actually have two kinds of berries here. The upper, at least, the upper is the madrone, and the bottom, you guys, I was going to ask you questions, but say it in your head, what is this? This is the toyon. So we have toyon berries, we have madrone berries. The berries look similar, but of course the trees are not at all similar. So there's our that's our next thing. Now, as far as naming, if you really care about the name and you don't know the name, I strongly suggest you put an app on your phone called iNaturalist. You take a picture of whatever it is, it'll give you the name right away, or a couple of suggestions if you don't have a complete picture of the thing or they don't know. And later on, a human being will come and say, yeah, that's a whatever. And so it's great fun. You can impress your friends about you knowing all these names. And then there are several other places you can check for plants, but a lot of them you need to know the name, something like a name to search. So iNaturalist is nice because just take a picture. There you go. Next flower. We're now leaving the forest and we're out into the grassland. And this is called Mule Ears. And you probably guess why. It's not for the flower, it's for the leaves. Look at the leaves and think of a mule, and there you have it. There are a couple of kinds of mule ears around here, but I'm not going to go into those details. You can check out iNaturalist or one of the other websites. The flowers, well, what we call flowers, the flower heads are actually many, many, many flowers, like a sunflower. So here's a flower right here. It's got its own stamen and pistil, its own ovary and pollen. Another flower, another one. On the edges, one petal is big and the flower has other tiny little petals. So it's a whole bunch of flowers all together. It's got a very long, deep taproot. It grows in grassy meadows, likes moisture. Here's one from, it's a beautiful flower. And here's one from Coal Mine Ridge, growing right next to the sag pond, to the vernal pond. And a close-up of that, and whoop, another crab spider. And I told you they changed color, and now you believe me. Look at that. They can get the color of their surroundings, and watch out, pollinator. So one more flower, the last flower, poison oak. Poison oak is in flower these days. So this is one I don't want you to take home. You really shouldn't pick any flowers and take them home, but don't even stick your nose up close to smell it. Just stay away and admire. So here are the flowers. This plant is funny. It's called semi-dioecious. A dioecious plant is one that has a male plant and a female plant, separate plants. Poison oak has a male plant and a female plant, and some of the poison oak plants have both male and female flowers. So this guy here, you can guess whether that's male or female. I'll let you guess. But anyway, that's one of the poison oak flowers. Here are the leaves. They start off lovely. The leaves are nice, start off red, then they turn green as they get the chlorophyll. And it's also an interesting plant in that most plants have one way to live. They're either a bush or a tree or a vine or a ground plant like a flower. Poison oaks have two ways. They're either a climbing vine or a bush. So here's a vine. They turn red in the fall too after they lose their chlorophyll. And here's the bushy form. A lot of animals eat the poison oak. A lot of animals and birds live in the poison oak. It's really a valuable thing for our ecosystem. And in the winter or in the fall, here's a bush. You can get poison oak from the bushes, so stay away from that too. And the kestrels love it too. So, and as far as the poison oak allergy, I don't think that was caused by some evolutionary reason to make people itch. People are just somehow, many people are allergic to the lacquer or the resin that comes out, which is a strong resin which protects poison oak when it gets cut or broken off. And some people are even allergic to lacquer, which is related to poison oak. Okay. Oh yeah, one more. You've all heard leaves of three, let it be. And also if it's hairy, it's a berry. But here's some more leaves of three. This is called Chaparral Clematis, and it's got three leaves as well. Don't worry about trying to tell them apart. If you don't know for sure what it is, just don't touch it. So that's it for the flowers for this month. Let's open up and here we are at a discussion and questions and discussion. Unmute before you talk.
Peg, you're unmuted. Did you have a question?
Who are you calling on? Okay, I have a question, but it's not really pertinent to the genus and species. It's about poison oak. I have a huge poison oak patch. I don't want to put some liquid on it that's not good for the environment. I want to get rid of it, and I just walked by it the other day, and my face is still swollen, my hand is swollen. How does one deal with that while still being environmentally sensitive? It's blocking out a lot of the light to some plants that I'm trying to encourage down my slope.
You know, I'm not an expert on this. Poison oak is lovely in the wilderness, and it keeps a lot of people on the trail, which is where they belong, and not off in the middle of nowhere, but it's off on your own land. I understand. You want to control that. So
find somebody who's not allergic to dig it out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Helen is, come on in, Helen. Helen suggests get somebody who's not allergic to deal it out, dig it out. I suggest going to Jasper Ridge chat and asking. There's a lot of experts on the chat, and somebody will tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you about, I love to have people stay on the trails and observe, not mingle very much, especially with that particular species.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well,
Thank you.
Show Helen here.
I don't want to be
You don't want to be shown. Helen will appear and disappear in the background here.
Do we have any other questions for Dan? Any other questions?
Where's this chat?
Comments? Any other flowers you think I should have included instead of one of those ugly ones?
Well, you did mention in the email to me, Dan, that sticky monkey flower is getting ready to, and I think are we saying goodbye to the trilliums? I know that they were absolutely gorgeous this year, but is their time almost over?
Trillium is almost gone. Trillium is my favorite. I'm really sorry we didn't start this series a month or so ago because we would have definitely had Trillium there. Sticky monkey is well on its way, so maybe we can do that one next time. But yeah, that's a nice flower too.
Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you have one. Oh, Craig? Craig, how
Yes.
about you?
Hi. Last week I went biking over in the Coyote Hills area, and I had never been there before, even though I've driven by it hundreds of times. I got on the bike and I was very interested to see lots of California poppies. They were gorgeous, but there were also things that looked kind of like the form of mustard, but some had white flowers, others had the purplish flowers, and then there was mustard in some places. I wonder if you have if this is enough information to identify what I was looking at.
I'm not the flower expert to ask a question like that. It's really hard for any flower expert to answer a question like that. But if there were a flower, but I'm
Can
not.
Can I give a guess at it?
In any case, I suggest iNaturalist. Carry your iPhone, or your whatever phone it is, put iNaturalist on it, stop your bike to snap a photo. It's really cool. It's really, if you get the leaf and the flower, it's really very good. And it at least will give you 2 or 3 names, and when you get back home, you can Google those names, and I'm sure you can sort it out.
And Craig, I'm going to give just a guess at this. I think that the yellow one was probably black mustard, which is an invasive, and it actually gives a chemical out from its roots to that inhibits the growth of natives around it. So it's kind of a nasty little one. If you are able to find that one, we should try to get it out as a community. And then my guess of the purplish one, which kind of has a similar flower to a mustard in that upright stem, but if it's white and purple, my guess is that it's a wild radish. So those are my 2 guesses. And Dana, I see your hand is up.
Deanna?
So poison oak idea. What we were talking about, poison oak. Another thing that people need to know about it is that it holds the soil. It's a wonderful erosion control.
Yeah, you're right. It's a native plant. It grew up here way before we were, and it does a lot of good.
Agree.
Anyway, I encourage people to keep poison oak.
Maybe the solution is just to cut off the top, but still, I don't want to get near it anymore. But just encourage the woody part below where we're not disturbing the soil or the animals or insects or whatever. But
It's an important erosion control plant.
I
don't like that. Am I on here?
should
I am.
turn that off. I should.
No, don't.
How do I do it?
Just leave it be. Any other comments? Read with your audience. Dan.
I have a question.
Dudley, Oh.
Okay.
just one second. I'm trying to, Dudley has his hand up. Dudley Carlson,
Her hand.
Dudley Carlson.
And I
Okay.
think I got skipped accidentally. This is Becky.
Oh, okay. Hi, Becky.
Hi.
Hi, what's your question?
What I just wanted to say was about the poison oak, that there are goat services where the goats are specially trained to clear land and to clear it of poison oak. So if it is a hazard that she's walking by on her own land and it needs to be, taken care of, there are goat services that you can call. They'll bring the goats out. The goats will eat the poison oak because they've been trained to do that and it doesn't hurt them. And they've done that here in our area, on trails where it's just too close to the trail and clipping it is just an issue. So the goats are the savior. And then they fertilize the ground and make everything happy again.
Great, thank you, Becky. And I saw somebody whose name is Mop and their hand was raised. Did you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, it's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Question is, I came in late, so where can I get the recording? And
If
then
you,
my
Yeah.
other comment on poison oak is if you can get it cut down, or the goats can bring it down to a manageable size, a few squirts of vinegar, or you know what, I'm so allergic, I just go for Roundup, but I try to keep it really minimal on a small amount, and that kind of keeps it from coming back as much. I know it's not great, but when poison oak is concerned, I go nuclear.
and Dudley, did you have a question? Dudley, there we go.
Yes.
Dudley, your turn.
Thanks. I wanted to ask Dan about mule ears and if you know how long their season is.
Oh, I didn't quite get that. How long
How long they bloom?
how long?
Until a month or 6 weeks or longer?
I think it's only about a month.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't think they last terribly long because they dry up when everything else dries up
Right.
and the brooms shrivel up. The seeds are there, but the flowers dry up sometime in May.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
they've just started now. They haven't been out very long.
Right. Thank you.
May I chime in behind that? I've seen so many hound's tongue this year. Has anyone else noticed, Dan? I as well as my question, I just want to say thank you so much, Dan. I enjoyed everything, and I love the story linking the Fremont's Lily to the Lewis expedition. I'm very sorry for his dreadful experience, and glad that nothing worse happened. But I will never forget Fremont's Lily again. When I look at it, I will give it much more proper respect. But back to the hound's tongue, I have seen the preponderance of them this year, and I was wondering whether I just seem to go out of my way to find them, or if anyone else has shared that experience.
Hound's tongue?
Yeah.
They're spectacular this year.
Oh,
Yes.
there was
Ah.
hound's tongue everywhere on Coal Mine Ridge and all around. I was out just a couple of days ago, and I think I saw one blossom. Basically, it's all in the seeds now. It's basically all finished, but boy, there was a lot of it around here.
Could you conjecture why this was such an abundant year?
Yeah, it was an abundant year.
I think it's interesting. It's seeding along the trails. And it takes, I've been trying to get it growing in my garden. It takes 4 or 5 years for a plant to get to the size that it starts to flower. So as you get a few along the trail, a few years later, you have more along the trail, and a few years. So we just happen to have now a lot along our trails. And I don't know what started the process, but I've been seeing it come more and more every year now.
It was refreshing after we have, of course, seen a decline in other wildflowers. So it was a happy sight.
Yeah, it's a perennial. It comes back every year.
And now Helen makes us think that we're going to get more, perhaps.
I hope so.
Well, I'll be equally pleasantly surprised next year. And next week when you come back, Dan, this is wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Brooke.
This month.
My pleasure. I saw
Next month, sorry.
Yeah, next
go out
month,
with
not
our-
next week.
Yeah, we go hiking with our dog most mornings, and we come back and we've got 3 or 4 hound's tongue seeds, new ones on the dog. So it's very easy to collect the seeds these days.
So friends, I just wanted to remind you that Dan is going to put together a nice local just field guide for us to be able to, a 1-page collection of some of his photos so that we'll be able to go out on our trails and in our backyards to try to go out and identify some of the things that he's told us about. So maybe Dan, if you could put Trillium on that one, maybe there are some cooler patches in town to where they still have a few that are holding on. That might be nice. But
Cool, yeah. My feeling is there's just a lot of field guides in the world, so I'm going to put a challenge guide out.
okay, a challenge guide.
And
I
then
like
at the
that.
bottom of it, I'll have some links to field guides.
Great.
You know, it's really, I mean, there's so many really nice field guides around. So I'll give you a couple of links.
But I do have to say, as a busy working mother, it sure is nice to be able to just have an 8.5 by 11 page that for me just to go out with that
Okay,
goal
I'll
to
see if I
only
can
try to
find-
get 9 without being overwhelmed. It's really nice just having a local naturalist tell us
If
what to
I-
focus on.
If I can't find one, I'll do it, but I think I can find a couple. I think Post had one.
Tell them, Coal Mine Ridge just made.
Oh, yes.
If you look for the Coal Mine Ridge guide, it has a bunch of pictures of things you will see on Coal Mine Ridge.
That's a great idea, Helen. I love that.
Yeah, cmrnp.org, Coal Mine Ridge Nature Preserve.org.
So friends, right now I am down in the chat. I'm going to put a link. I'm going to put the website for, if you click on chat down on the bottom, for Dan's portfolio. It's capturethelight.zenfolio.com, and it really is breathtaking. There's a gorgeous one. I'm not sure where you took this one, Dan, but it was of a bobcat that you got its attention, and it's just perfectly poised in that full body position. It was absolutely gorgeous. So we look forward to seeing you again next month, Dan, and the recording for this, as well as the other lectures that we're having for the Nature and Science Committee, will be on the town website under the Nature and Science Committee link. And we encourage you also to look for the challenge guide coming from Dan for what we can look forward to looking for it in our backyard. So what I encourage you to do now, everyone, is to go up to view, the upper right-hand corner. If we all can click on gallery view, and then if everybody wants to turn on their video, unless maybe you're already in your jammies, in which case you may not want to do it, but then that way we can actually see some of our neighbors in person. I know that we're all missing seeing each other. Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie Crater is also on the Nature and Science Committee. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's so wonderful. And Dan, thank you again. You really are a gem for us to have in town. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. We had 73 people. That's the record.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you. We'll see
Thank
you again
you.
next month. Thank you so much, friends. We'll see you next month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Helen, as well. Helen, my husband works at Slack, and he says that you are quite the star over there and for all women in physics. So I have a Post-it note right here. He's like, wife Helen? She's a star at Slack and for all women in physics! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
That's right.
Bravo to your whole family.
Not only at Slack, in the world. She's
In
the
the
star.
world, in the world. That's what he said. Yes.
Right.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for contributing and giving us this gift. It's really phenomenal. And everybody, I really do recommend going to look at his portfolio. It's breathtaking. Thank you so much. All right. And I will end recording. Thanks, Bonnie, for reminding me.